Hello YouTube, and thank you for tuning in to yet another Hanging with Heavy video. Hey, today our videos are going to be just a little different than what we've done in the past. This is not really a technical video, but I bought a new piece of equipment for the shop, and I wanted to unbox it in front of you and let y'all take a look and see what you think. Now, some pieces of equipment out there that you can find online are maybe not as well as others, but I had a chop saw that I had for maybe 15 years. It got to be too noisy, too many sparks, and too messy. So I decided to buy myself a dry cut chop saw. Now this is one with carbide teeth, and ideally it won't be making quite as many sparks around the shop. So let's unbox it and see what's going on. But by the way, think about this. Nobody's paying me for this. So I'm going to give you an honest opinion onto this piece of equipment, whether or not you look into that catalog that comes to your door and you want to buy this piece of equipment. Nobody's paying me, so I'm going to be very honest in my approach to this. So, hang with Heavy as we unpack the dry cut chop saw. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, here we go. This is the chop saw in question, the Ironton 14-inch dry cut chop saw. Now it's 15 amp, 3 3/8 horsepower motor. Let me see it there, 1450 RPM, no load speed. Cuts up to 4 3/4 inches thick round and 4 1/8 inch square stock. Cuts pipe, angle iron, or conduit. 0 to 45. Capacity for angle cuts. Heavy duty aluminum base for stability, and includes a 14-inch carbide tip blade. Now keep in mind, this head on the saw itself does not bevel. You have to move the material into the 45 to make this saw work. Let's go ahead and open her up. Alright YouTube, there it is. There's the saw. It looks like a little bit like a knockoff of a Porter cable, if you want to know the truth about it as far as the design goes. But it's got a pretty heavy duty aluminum base. The carbide tip blade looks like it's going to have about a 1/16 of an inch kerf. And I'm going to go ahead and plug this bad boy in and we'll see how she runs. Okay, now the safety instructions and the owner's manual that comes with this saw is pretty good, and it's pretty basic. If you've operated any kind of equipment like this, you're going to find it very easy to put together and use. But it does have some good information on it that I think we should probably address. Number one, they're going to tell you a little bit here about what the capacities are and how this thing works. That's a good thing to keep in mind. The only thing that you can do quicker to tear up your saw is leave it outside. Is to overcut, try and cut something that's way too big. Now then, also, they have a part over here about how to change the blade. And there's a little switch on here that you have to push to lock in the blade. So make sure you check out your owner's manual pretty well before you get started. Now then, you'll see I've got it up here on the table. Now to get the blade to raise up, which they don't tell you in the manual, but you're going to have to push this button. There's a button right here, and it's called the lock up down knob. When you get this, you're going to have to push it back because it's very difficult. It's very tight, so you have to push it back to make the blade come up. I've got a piece of 2-inch by 2-inch square tube that I'm going to try to cut with. Let's see what happens. Alright, now this is how you're going to check your angles. And right now I've got this set at 90 degrees. And I'll be honest with you, I put about as much faith in those numbers there as I do in some other things. Okay, we'll leave it at that. But if you want to make sure you're making a 90-degree cut, you're going to have to use your squares, I have no doubt. And the same way with a 45. Well, I've got my piece of 2-inch bar in there, and you can see it's securely mounted. I'm going to get ready to light off the saw and see how she does, and she'll make this cut. I got a feeling this is going to rotate. It's going to be a little noisy, I think. Well, we'll see what happens here. Stay tuned. There's the cut that it left, and you can see it left a little bit of a rag there, probably because I didn't bring the blade down all the way through. I will say this, it's a lot, not as many sparks as with the chop saw by any means. Same kind of cut, same everything else is pretty much basically the same, except now you've got a metal blade instead of a consumable fiber blade, abrasive blade. How did it do as far as the cut goes? Well, it said 90 degrees. Let's check that out. Well, that's pretty 90 to me. 90 in two directions. So I can live with that. Let's take a look at something here. I don't know whether you can see or not, but it makes a tremendous amount of little hot metal sharp chips. Okay? So as far as a fire hazard goes, versus the abrasive cutoff saw, this is probably a lot better. As far as making a mess goes, it still makes a mess. Matter of fact, I think I might try and figure out some kind of a magnet to have all that stuff jump to it. Well, there it is, ladies and gentlemen. The 14-inch dry cut chop saw. Well, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. That's the 14-inch chop saw, the Ironton chop saw. I got that from Northern Hydraulics. I paid less than $300 for it. Compared to my abrasive chop saw, it's just as noisy, except you don't have that high-pitched noise, but it's just as noisy. It makes just as much mess, and it cuts just as well. The thing that I like best about this saw is that there's not a lot of sparks flying around everywhere. I don't have them going all over my shop to grit, but I do have those small metal chips. So I'm thinking that maybe I might install some kind of a magnet or something to get these metal chips to jump to or collect to, because I plan on putting the saw in its own independent location. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Another Hanging with Heavy video as we review the Ironton 14-inch dry cut chop saw from Northern Hydraulics. Would I say it's worth the money? I would say yes, it's definitely worth the money, and I'm happy with my purchase. So until I see you again, you know what you got to do. You got to like, share, subscribe, and we're out. I'll catch you outside.